Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's lesson is on adding fractions using the area model. So this is our first lesson where we're actually starting what the main unit is on. So obviously that is our goal. Today I will add fractions using an area model. Okay, our vote first vocab word is what is an area model? Well, we've done them in multiplication and we've done them in division. An area model is just a visual way of solving a mathematical problem. We could also say it's a picture. So we're going to be solving these problems using pictures. Now our next vocab word is horizontal. Horizontal has the word horizon in it. The horizon is this. The horizon is where we think of the sky and the land meeting, like in an art project. That's the horizon. So a horizontal line goes that way, and a vertical line goes this way. You're going to need to know that for when we draw our pictures. Okay, our notes today is just a reminder. A reminder of what a fraction actually is. A fraction has two parts. The top part is called our numerator. And what it does is it tells us how many parts we have. How many parts we have. Okay, the bottom number is called our denominator. And this is how many parts, because notice the word parts is twice because that's what a fraction is parts of a whole. So how many parts the whole was cut into. Sorry, my marker's kind of fat, so it's making it harder to write. So they both have their own job. So this is how many parts we have, and this is how many parts it was cut into. So if this was a cake, the cake was cut into 3 pieces, and we only have 2 of them left. Okay, so we have a lot of steps tonight. Once you get used to them, though, you won't hopefully need to refer exactly to them. So first we're going to go back to that lesson about estimating. It's always a good idea to start by estimating to see if you are going to end up with a reasonable answer. You'll also have questions on your test where you really just need to know the skill of estimating. So it's a good skill to keep practicing. Okay, the next step is step 2. You're going to draw and shade both fractions. I strongly suggest you use a light colored crayon. Okay, a light colored crayon will work best. Then you're going to add lines to make models match. I'm going to actually go back to step 2 to put a little reminder on step 2. Is when you draw and shade both fractions, you're going to want one horizontal and one vertical. That's going to be really important. So make sure you go back and write that. So on step 2, when you draw and shade, you're going to want one horizontal and one vertical. Okay, then you're going to add lines to make models match. Step 4, you're going to rearrange shaded parts to create holes. Okay, you're going to be rearranging them. Kind of like if you had 2 pans of cake or 2 pans of enchiladas left, and at night when your mom is wrapping up the leftovers, she might move some leftovers into one pan. So she only has to put one in the fridge. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be moving some out of a pan and putting them in the other. Okay, then we're going to write our answer. Then another skill that we practiced and learned already is we're going to simplify using the GCF. Okay, now that's a harder skill, is always writing the GCF. You're going to see me talk about over the next few weeks some other strategies of how you can simplify things that make it maybe a little bit easier and quicker. And then we're just going to ask ourselves, is our answer reasonable? That's why we estimated up here, to make sure that we end up with a reasonable answer. Okay, so what does this really look like? Okay, so I'm going to keep my steps up there so I can look at them. Here's my first problem. Okay, so my problem says 2/3 plus 2/5. Now you know I don't like them written that way, so I can take time and write them the way I like. Okay, so my first step is estimate. Well, remember when I estimate, I always think of that 0, half, or 1. 2/3 is about a half, and 2/5 is about a half too. So I'm thinking my answer should be about, because 1/2 plus 1/2, I'm thinking my answer is going to be about 1. Okay? This is going to be, my answer is going to be about 1 when I'm done. Okay. Step 2, this is where the real work's going to begin. I'm going to draw and shade both fractions. So my first fraction is 2/3. Well, 2/3 means, the 3 means they cut it into 3 pieces. And the 2 means I have 2 of them. Let's see if that shows up enough. Maybe I'm going to go for a pink crayon. That might show up a little bit better. Or an orangish color. Oh, we'll see. We might change colors on you in a moment. Okay. Let's see. I think we like the yellow better. Okay, so there's my 2/3. Okay, I also need to draw and shade both fractions. So now I need to draw and shade the 2/5. This is where you're going to have to be really careful, because the first fraction I chose to do using vertical lines. Now I'm going to need to choose to do horizontal lines. So I need to cut this other one into 5 parts. So, okay, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. Notice when you cut it into 5 parts, it doesn't mean to draw 5 lines. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. And this time it says I have 2/5. So notice I changed colors to a light color. That'll make it easier. Okay, so I did step 2. I drew and shaded both of them. I made sure one was vertical and one was horizontal. Now I'm going to add lines to make them match. So this top one is missing horizontal lines. So this had 1, 2, 3, 4 horizontal lines. So I need to come up here and add 1, 2, 3, 4 horizontal lines. And this one is missing 1, 2 vertical lines. So I'm going to put 1, 2 vertical lines. Okay, that is most of the work there. I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see. Okay, so notice now I have them both colored and shaded. My next step says I'm going to rearrange shaded parts to create holes. So think about these as 2 pans of leftovers. You wouldn't want to put 2 in the fridge if you didn't have to. You might have to, but let's see what happens. Well, it doesn't matter which pan you move them to or which fraction, but I would probably move these here because there's more here. So I'm going to move 1 over here. I'm going to move another one over here. I'm going to move another one over here. I'm going to move another one over here. Another one over here. And shucks, I can't move the other one. So if this really was leftovers, I'd be stuck putting 2 pans in the fridge. But what do I have now? Well, I have 1 hole. And in this pan, it was cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 pieces, and I only have 1 of them left. I only have this one. So I have 1 and 1/15. Okay, let's look at our next answer. Simplify using the GCF. Well, here's the thing. I know I can't simplify this because there's no way 1's going to get smaller. So that's a good trick, is whenever there's a 1, you know you can't simplify it. Okay, so then let's look at our last step. Is my answer reasonable? Well, I thought my answer was going to be about 1, and my answer is 1 and 1/15. So I'm pretty darn close. So my answer, I would say, is very reasonable. And that is exactly how I would do it. Okay, let's try another one. This one's actually in the form of a word problem. If I need 1 and 5/6 cups of sugar for the cookie recipe, and 2 and 1/4 cups of sugar for the scone recipe, how much sugar do I need? Okay, so 1 and 5/6 I think is about 2. It's almost 2. 2 and 1/4, I could say that's either about 2 or about 2.5. I'm just going to say it's about 2 also. So I'm thinking my answer is going to be about 4. Notice I did the little squiggly equal sign, which means an about. So I'm hoping when I'm done, I have an answer that's about 4. Okay, so now let's look at our steps. Next, I'm going to draw and shade both fractions. I'm going to make sure one's horizontal and one's vertical. So first I'm going to draw the 1 and 5/6. So I have one whole, and then I have another one where it's been cut into 6 pieces. Let's make sure I have 6. Let me add another one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. Yep, I have 6 pieces. So I have one whole, and I have 5 of the 6 pieces. The next one is I have 2 wholes, and I have one that's been cut into 4. Now, because these are vertical, I need to do these horizontal. Okay, did I cut it into 4 pieces? 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and I have one of them. So there's really no need to cut up my holes at all. My holes can just stay just like that. Okay, so I drew and shaded both of them, and I made sure one had vertical lines and one had horizontal. Now I'm going to add lines to make the models match. Well, this one is missing my horizontal line. So I have how many? 1, 2, 3. So let's add them. 1, 2, 3. This one's missing vertical lines. So how many did I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's add them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so think about if these were your leftovers, which one are you going to move around? I would definitely move these to this pan, right? You could even count ahead and see how many you can move. I can move 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to cross off 4, and I'm going to move them over here. All right, so let's see what I have then. So I rearranged them. That's what I did. I rearranged them to try and make holes. Now I'm going to write my answer. Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. And down here, I have 2 pieces out of, how many was this cut into? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 times 1, 2, 3, 4 is 24. Okay, my next step says I'm going to simplify using the GCF. Well, here's another trick with simplifying. If my smallest number can fit into my larger number, you could just divide by that. So since 2 fits into 24, I'm going to divide by that. And I get 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So if your smallest number or your numerator fits into your denominator, you can just divide by that. My answer is 4 and 1/12. my last step says, is that a reasonable answer? Does that make sense? Well, I thought my answer was going to be about 4, and that's about 4. So I am going to say my answer is reasonable. Okay, let's try some of these together. Okay, here's your first one. Okay, so my problem says 2 1/3 plus 1 1/6. Okay, so first I'm going to ask, what would be a reasonable answer? I'm going to estimate. Well, I think that that is about 1/2. And 1 1/6, I'm going to say is about 1. So I think somewhere along here, I think I'm going to get an answer that's about 1 1/2. I think that's the answer we're going to have close to. Okay, so now let's go on and see and do the work and see if we get close to that. So remember, we're going to draw and shade both fractions. So I'm going to first draw 2/3. Okay, 2/3 means it was cut into 3 pieces. And the 2 means we have 2 of the pieces. Okay, the 1 1/6 means I have 1 whole. And then I have 1 that was cut into 6 pieces. Now, because I use vertical lines, you have to use the opposite now. So I need to cut this into 6 pieces. Whoa, that's kind of hard. Let's see if I really cut it into 6. 1, 2, 3. Yep, there's 6 pieces there. So I have 1 whole, and I have 1 of the 6 pieces. Okay, my next step now is I am going to add lines to make them match. So this one is missing my horizontal line. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's come up here and add them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hopefully with your pencil it's easier than with my fat marker. This is missing my 1, 2 vertical line. So 1, 2. Okay, so now we're going to rearrange to try and create holes. So think about, again, your pan of enchiladas or your pan of food. You would probably move these 3 over here. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, and there's room in this pan. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what do I have now? I have 1 hole, because this one's not finished. This is nothing. So 1 hole, and then I have here, how many pieces do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I have 15 out of how many? How many was it cut into? It was cut into 18. So I have 1 and 15 out of 18. Okay, my next step is we are going to simplify. Well, there's not a 1, and my small one doesn't fit into my big one, so I might have to find the GCF for this one. So remember, I list them, and I think of my factors. 1 times 15, 2, doesn't work. 3 times 5, 4, doesn't work, and there's a repeat, so I'll stop. 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6, 4 times, doesn't work. 5 doesn't work. So what do they have in common? They have 1, 3, and that's it. So my GCF is 3. So let's divide by 3. And we get 1 and 15/18 is equal to 1 and 5, 6. And that is our answer. Well, 1 and 5, 6 is probably closer to 2, but I am good enough. You're not going to be exact when you check to see if your answer is reasonable. You just want to make sure you're close. Okay, let's try another one together. This says Jane ran 1/2 miles on Wednesday and 3/6 miles on Friday. How far did she run altogether? Well, when I'm estimating, 1/2 is already good. I'll leave it alone. 3/6, that's probably 1/2 too. So I think my answer is going to be about 1. Okay, let's see if we get that. So first I'm going to draw my half. Draw and shade it. Then I'm going to draw and shade my 3/6. So let's cut it into 6 pieces. Let's shade in the 3 we have. Then let's make our models match. So this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 horizontal lines. So 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this one, I'm going to make that bigger so you can see it a little easier. Okay, this one has 1 vertical, so let's put 1 vertical. Okay, so next we want to rearrange them to create holes. So I'm probably going to move these 6 over here. How many do I have room for? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have exactly room for 6. So I'm going to put these 6 all over here. So what am I left with? I have 1 hole and I have nothing here. Well, I'm not going to simplify because there's nothing to simplify. So let's see. I was thinking my answer was going to be about 1, and my answer is exactly 1. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I know this was a longer video, and I know this is a little bit tricky. Some hints when you try your homework tonight is I would really use pencil, and I would use a light colored crayon. You could also use a yellow highlighter, might work. All right, good luck. Remember to use vertical and horizontal lines, and then of course rate yourself. We will be practicing this tomorrow. Have a nice night. Bye.